should be working now. Okay. Here's text. Yes, it's working. Okay, we'll have a quick kirtan then. Why don't we do the prayers to Lord Nrsingadev? And so we can do it quickly and start class on time. Namaste, Nada Singaya, Nada Nada Toyane, Iram Guru Baksha, Shila Tanta, Ulaye, Ituna Singa, Paratuna Singo, Ituya Tuya, Mikatuna Singa, Mahina Singo, Ida Singo, Singamate, Number Joy, the Singamate, Number Joy, the Singamate, Number Joy. Tavakara come on up and pray in the come, the Singamate. Tali Dai Ranya Kasipu Yana Bringa Samadrita Adamayupa God is a day God is a day God is a day Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Paravatikacharya, also Tela Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Savaya Chandana Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Makunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuram Ki Jai, Jagadadha Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious to Shri Guru Go Raga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Navani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschachate Jatarni. So, we're going to continue with our study of the Jaiva Dharma by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's getting really philosophical now, so hopefully everyone can understand. I'll try to go as slow as necessary to explain all these different principles, all the tattvas, the siddhanta, the ras, and all those are the nice things, as we go over the Jaiva Dharma. So let us continue. So Om Gada Timirandasha Gananjana Shakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurve Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master's divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So now I will share the screen. And where is that screen? Hold on a second. Let me, oh, I see, that's what happened to the screen. Okay. There it is. Okay. Jaiva Dharma Ki Jai. Okay. So, this is the conversation between Brajanath and his Babaji Guru Maharaj, talking about the Lord and his Shaktis and how Krishna is independent. And so there's going to be some questions about this. Shakti, of course, means Krishna's energies. Really simple concept. So Brajanath said, being endowed, that means possessed of, with all Shaktis, energies, he, Krishna, performs actions by engaging his Shakti. How can he be said to be independent or acting according to his own will? In other words, how can you say Krishna is independent if he needs Shaktis? But he doesn't. Let's read Babaji's answer first. According to the Vedanta, Shakti Mator Abeda. The Shakti and Shaktiman are non-different. This is the conclusion of all the Shrutis. Shrutis means the original Vedic literatures and the Upanishads. The Lord who possesses the Shaktis, Shaktiman, means the possessor of the Shaktis, is non-different from this Shakti. The actions indicate Shakti. The desire to act indicates Shaktiman. The material world is the action of the Maya Shakti. The Jivas are the action of the Jiva Shakti. The spiritual world is the work of the Chit Shakti. The Lord inspires Chit Shakti, Jiva Shakti, and Maya Shakti to do their work eternally. He is not touched by the work and is unchanging. In other words, Krishna is independent. The Shakti is his direct energy. So it's part of his independence. But his energy is one and different from him simultaneously. Now, another question that may arise, you say the Lord inspires the Jiva Shakti. So Jiva Shakti, I've actually outlined that. Jiva Shakti, that's us. Oh, of course, we're not the whole Jiva Shakti. We're part, or that's our category, Jiva Shakti. So we're inspired indirectly by the Lord, if we're in Maya, through the three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, in order to control. Krishna says this in the Gita, everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the impulses born of the modes of nature. And if we're Krishna conscious, then we're inspired by the Bhakti Shakti, which is part of the Chit Shakti. So, Chit Shakti is the spiritual energy, Jiva Shakti is us, marginal, and Maya Shakti is the material energy. So, Rajana said, by the Lord's desire, activities take place. How can the Lord be without change? Is not desire a change? To act according to his desire means he underwent change. That's interesting. interesting because if something changes, obviously we're not interested in this parinamvada, where the Lord or Brahman undergoes transformation. That is not a fact. That's what Shankaracharya believed in, that Brahman can be transformed. We believe that Shakti can transform. Shakti Parinam. Parinam means transformation. But we don't believe that Brahman gets changed. So here's the explanation of this. So, Babaji said, without change means devoid of material change. Maya is a shadow. That means the material energy is a shadow of the internal energy, Swarupa Shakti. Though Maya's actions are real, they are not eternal. Maya's changes are not eternal. Such changes do not occur in the Supreme Tattva. So it's not that Krishna actually changes in any way. I mean, because these are eternal activities of the Lord, eternal desires of the Lord. So it's not a change, it's always there, eternally there. That change will take place in the Supreme Tattva in the form of a manifestation of his desires, the manifestation of the spiritual prema or spiritual variety. So whatever you may think is change, or anyway, concoct that there's change in the Supreme Tattva, who is Krishna, is not actually change, first of all, because it's eternal. Change requires time. And secondly, whatever his desires are a manifestation of prema, or spiritual variety. There's not a question of him changing his nature. There's no impure fault in this. This change is included in non-dual knowledge. So if we consider it to be a change, in one sense not a change, which I explained from a different perspective, non-dual knowledge means the Lord and his Shaktis are one and different simultaneously. When the material world arises through a Maya Shakti by the Lord's will, the Lord remains in his spiritual Swarupa unchanged. We change bodies. He doesn't change bodies. He can change how he manifests his body, but that's eternal, so it's not really changing, remember? Like Krishna's avatars are eternal. Sometimes they're manifest in one planet, sometimes they're manifest in another planet, but they're eternal. Lord Nrsingadev is an eternal manifestation. Spiritual variety has no relationship with Maya. Maya does have a relationship with spiritual variety, in that Maya, or this material realm, or material variety, is a reflection of the spiritual variety as described by Krishna in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It's like a banyan tree that's upside down. Reflection. So it's not that spiritual variety has a relationship with the material variety, but material variety is a reflection of the spiritual variety. Because relationship means two-way street. It's not a two-way street. It's a one-way street. Spiritual variety gives us the material variety, which material variety is a reflection of the spiritual variety. If one has material intelligence, he will see descriptions of spiritual variety as Maya. Why will he see like that? Because all material variety is Maya or temporary. And so we will think that spirituality must be exactly the same way. So here's an interesting example that Prabhupada sometimes uses. A person with jaundice, that's a liver disease, sees everything yellow because of the contamination of his disease. I remember the story. One devotee was in India with Prabhupada and he got jaundice, and everyone looked at him and said, "Your eyes are yellow." If the eye is covered by clouds, one sees the sun covered by clouds. Maya Shakti is the shadow of the Chit Shakti. In other words, this is a really perfect metaphor. That if you say, let's say the sun is covered by clouds, look at the sky, what do you see? Clouds. So the clouds are covering us, not that the clouds are actually covering the sun. but they're covering just us. Thus the variety that the clouds couldn't cover the sun. Thus the variety that arises from the Chit Shakti, the spiritual energy, has an inferior reflection in the variety arising from Maya Shakti. That's what I said before. Everything in this material world is a reflection, an inferior reflection, perverted reflection. Just like you have the love of Radha and Krishna in the spiritual world. And there's things like, kissing and things like that between Radha and Krishna. So it's reflected in this world with the so-called loving relationships where they have these same things, holding hands and yucking. So, sorry about this. So, it's reflected in this material world. But in the spiritual world, it's spiritual. It's a different quality. But it's reflected. Just like a movie of something is a reflection of the actual reality in the material, in this world. And it appears to have some substantiality, but it's not, or does not have substantiality. Superficially, the variety looks the same. Actually, it's very different. So, superficially, we look at Radha and Krishna's loving affairs, and it looks exactly the same, There's the rasa dance, of course, not exactly the same, but, many similarities. The form of the body reflected in a mirror. Here's another example Prabhupada gives. The form of the body reflected in a mirror is similar, but the limbs all appear opposite. Left is right, right is left. And that helps us when we're using a mirror. The right hand appears on the left, and the left hand appears on the right. Just like I'm using Zoom right now, and if I want to look at a picture of myself, I'm looking right now, it's actually like a mirror image. I have a choice when I set up Zoom whether I can have Zoom show me as I actually look or as I would looking at myself in a mirror. So I set it up as looking at myself in the mirror, because otherwise it gets confusing when I'm adjusting the camera, because I'm used to the mirror image. Because, just like practically if I moved right in an actual image, where the right hand was the right hand, then the image would move to my left, and it would get confusing trying to adjust myself in front of the camera. So I'm looking at a mirror image of myself, and it appears to be similar, but it's a reflection. It's right is left, left is right. Similarly, the variety in the spiritual world and the variety in the material world look the same by gross vision, but by finer vision they are opposite. Spiritual variety has a distorted reflection in material variety. So anyway, that's really easy to understand. It's distorted. So love becomes exploitation. Not exactly hate necessarily, but exploitation, like in the spiritual world. We love Krishna. In the material world, we use the word love to express a desire to use someone or to use an object for ourselves. But in the spiritual world, the love of Krishna is basically, what can I do for Krishna? In the material world, the love is, what can you do for me? Thus, in describing them, there is similarity, but actually there's a difference. The Lord, with his own desire, devoid of a material change, is the controller of Maya and makes her do his work. Get to work, Maya. Keep everyone illusioned. Vrajanath said, which Shakti of Krishna is Radhika? Wow. Give me a second to compose myself. Babaji said, Krishna is the complete Shaktiman. Remember I said Shaktiman means the possessor of Shaktis, the possessor of energies. And Radha is his complete Shakti. And I've oftentimes said in this class that Srimati Radharani is called the Adi Shakti, the original Shakti. So one can say that Radha is the full Swarup Shakti, that means spiritual Shakti. Just as musk and its fragrance are inseparable, and fire and its power to burn are non-different, so Radha and Krishna, though eternally different for tasting the rus of pastimes, are always non-different. Got it? They're one and different simultaneously, Radha and Krishna. I mean, this principle of Achincha Veda Beta Tapa can be applied many ways. I mean, in one sense, we are one and different from Krishna simultaneously. But Radharani is the full Swarup Shakti. From that Swarup Shakti, that's Radharani, one sees three types of Kriya Shakti. Kriya means action Shakti. So the Chit Shakti, spiritual Shakti, Jiva Shakti, and Maya Shakti. Another name for the Chit Shakti is Antaranga Shakti, spiritual Shakti. It's internal. Antaranga, Anga means limb, Antara means within. Got it? Antar, the opposite of Antar is Bahir. Bahir means without. Like Bahiranga Shakti is the external potency, Antaranga is the internal potency, the spiritual potency. Another name for the Jiva Shakti is Tatashta Shakti. That means the marginal potency. Tatashta, the margin between spirit and matter. Go either way. Another name for Maya Shakti, that's the material Shakti, is what I just said. Badhiranga Shakti, which means external energy of the Lord. So internal is Srimati Radharani, external is Bahiranga or Maya. Maha Maya, another name of that. Though the Swarup Shakti is one, it acts in these three forms. That's interesting. All the eternal qualities of the Swarup Shakti are fully manifest in the Jiva Shakti. They are manifested in a very small portion in the Jiva Shakti, and they manifest in Maya Shakti in a distorted way. Let me just copy this. I found this really interesting. I just want to send it. For someone. I just found this quite an interesting statement by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Jaiva Dharma. Anyway, get back to the nectar. The Swarup Shakti, here's another point. The Swarup Shakti, that means the spiritual Shakti or his own form Shakti. The Antaranga Shakti, the internal potency, manifests its nature in three other types. They are called Ladini, Sandini, and Samvit. They are described in this way in the Dasamula. So what does Ladini mean? Ladini means pleasure. Sandini means existential potency, something that maintains everything. And Samvit means cognitive or knowledge. It's the same way as saying Ladini, Ananda, Sandini, Sat, and Samvit Chit. So in other words, Sat Chit Ananda. Everybody's familiar with Sat Chit Ananda, eternity, bliss, and knowledge. So these are the three divisions of Krishna's Antaranga Shakti, his internal potency, or Swarup Shakti, which is the same thing. And usually Radharani is called the personification of the Ladini, or pleasure potency of the Lord. Now, here, they're described this way in the 4th verse of the Dashamula. Savai ladinyascha pranya vikriter ladana tatasam vichyati prakatita raho bhava rasitaha tata shri sandinya krita vishada tadamanichaye Sambodao magno brajalasa vilasi vijayate. The Swarup Shakti has 3 aspects. The internal energy of the Lord, the spiritual energy of the Lord, is 3 aspects, the same thing. Ladini, Samvit, Sandini. Ladini is pleasure, Samvit is knowledge, Sandini is existential or existence or eternity. Okay. The Lord is absorbed in bliss through his Ladini Shakti, the transformation of love. Wow, that's Srimati Radharani, who is love, a love of Krishna. He tastes confidential bhavas, emotions, that means confidential emotions, which are manifest through his Samvit Shaktis, knowledge potency. He's aware of it. Joyful in the rasas of Braj, means very happy in the tastes of relationships in Braj. Krishna is always victorious, absorbed in an ocean of ras, that means tastes of relationships, in his various pure abodes. That means pure abodes means Krishna Loka, the Vaikuntha planets, and these are all manifest by his Sandini Shakti. Sometimes the Sandini Shakti is described as a manifestation of Balaram. Balaram is the presiding personality of the Sandini Shakti. Although here, which is what I found interesting, you have these as manifestations of the Swarup Shakti or the Adi Shakti, which is Radharani. So it's actually quite interesting. The 3 functions of the Swarup Shakti, Ladini, Sandini, and Samvit, are always present. Ladini Shakti gives complete spiritual bliss to Krishna in the form of Radha. Becoming the dearest of Krishna, in other words, she's Krishna's dearest devotee. She is the very form of Mahabhav. Mahabhav is the highest stage of spiritual emotion in relationship to Krishna, which only Radharani and her associates. She manifests 8 types of bhava in her swarup, in her form, and her associates, the 8 sakis, that means the 8 principal gopis, as well as she manifests as priya sakis, narma sakis, prana sakis, and parama preshna sakis. These are different types of sakis depending on their relationship with Srimati Radharani and Krishna, who are embodiments of the 4 moods of service. They are Nitya Siddha Sakis in Braj, the spiritual world. In other words, these particular individuals, these Sakis, these energies of Krishna, eternal, ladies, are eternally there. They don't fall down. They're not like us jiva souls who can come down the material world. And you can read the Ujjvala Nilamani if you're interested in hearing some of these different categories. Samvit Shakti. Samvit means the knowledge potency manifests all the relationships in Braj. The Sandini Shakti, again, that's the existence or existential, or anyway, you can understand from reading this. The Sandini Shakti manifests the villages and forests made of earth, water, etc., Govardhan and other places of pastimes, paraphernalia for pastimes, as well as the spiritual bodies of Krishna, Radha, the Sakis, the Sakas, the cows, and servants. So it's not that Krishna takes a body. This gets a little complicated. Krishna is non-different from his body, but his body is a manifestation. Krishna and the Sakis are Sakis are non-different. Shaktis are not Sakis. Shaktis are non-different, so it's part of Krishna's nature. Like you say, Krishna's beauty manifests his beauty. There's Radha, the Sakis, the Sakas are the coward boys, the cows and servants. Krishna is always absorbed in the highest bliss because of Ladini's transformations of love. That's Radharani's relationship with him. He performs activities with various confidential bhavas. It's a little repetitive. That means confidential emotions that arise from his knowledge, samvit, the knowledge of which Krishna has. Okay? He attracts the gopis while playing his flute. He herds the cows and performs rasa lila under the shelter of samvit Shakti. Krishna playing in Braj is absorbed in ras at all times. The ras means taste of relationships. In abodes, that means his places of residence, which are manifest by his sadhini Shakti. Hopefully it's not getting too complicated, but this is actually repetitive. It's already been stated here. Among Krishna's many pastimes and abodes, the Braja pastimes and the abode of Braja are the best. Because Braja means Vrindavan are the best. It's just concentrate on what I'm saying because it gets a little complicated here. So Brajana said, you said that Ladini, pleasure potency, Samvit, knowledge potency, and Sandhini, the existence or existential potency, are special functions of his Swarup Shakti, his internal energy, his spiritual energy. Jiva Shakti, that's us, is a small portion of his Swarup Shakti, internal energy. In other words, we're spiritual. Maya Shakti is a shadow portion. How do these three functions act upon the Jiva and Maya? In other words, how does the Ladini Shakti, the pleasure potency, the knowledge potency, and the existential potency act upon us and the illusory energy? Which is actually a pretty interesting question. Okay. Just try to follow. I mean, Babaji said, as an answer, just as the Jiva Shakti is a small portion of the Swarup Shakti, so we're a small portion of the spiritual energy of the Lord, so Swarup Shakti is manifest again as eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Let's just use the common English words so you can understand it better. So the three functions of the Swarup Shakti, which are eternity, bliss, and knowledge, are present in a small amount in the Jiva Shakti. In other words, that is our constitutional right. That is our constitutional right to experience eternity, bliss, and knowledge when we realize our nature. That's really what's being said here. The Ladini Shakti, pleasure potency, is eternally present in the Jiva as Brahmananda. Brahmananda means to realize that you get the bliss of realizing you're a soul. That's pretty blissful, isn't it? That I ain't the body. Samvit is present, the knowledge potency of the Lord, of the internal potency, a division, is present in us, the Jiva, as Brahma Jnana. That means knowledge of spirituality. Knowledge of Krishna, knowledge of the impersonal, knowledge of a Paramatma. That's our manifestation with us of the knowledge potency of the Lord, which is called Samvit. Sandini, the existential function, is present in the jiva as the jiva's small consciousness, Anu Chaitanya. If you ask when we discuss Jiva Tattva, you can understand this well. So, in other words, we're going to discuss Jiva Tattva in the future. That's interesting to know our nature. But just like, let me summarize this. So, all of us Jiva souls, unless you happen to be a machine, it's like yesterday we were talking about the story of Pinocchio. Some of you may have heard about Pinocchio. He was a puppet who became a boy. But anyway, we have a whole presentation on him, which is going to be very interesting. So unless you are a machine, you have a small aspect of Satchidananda, which is your nature. Got it? That's really important to understand. Right now, why are we not experiencing Samvit, Sandini, Ladini, or eternity, bliss, and knowledge? Because we've turned our face away from Krishna. Because we only have a small amount. And to realize that, another example Prabhupada gave is like we're a spark in a fire. We've fallen out of the fire, and the spark gets extinguished. And if we jump back in the fire, then the spark actually retains its original spiritual nature. The Swarup Shakti, the spiritual Shakti in its Ladini pleasure function is present in Maya Shakti as material happiness. In other words, it's a reflection of the happiness in this material world, a reflection of the happiness in the spiritual realm being reflected in this material world in different objects. Just like you may look at a certain car that you want, and that gives you some sort of material happiness. So that's a reflection of the Ladini Shakti within the material energy. I think that's easy to understand. I mean, it's easy for me. I hope I'm not confusing anyone. Samvit, or the knowledge function, is present as material knowledge. Okay. So, and then Sandini, that's easy to understand, material knowledge. What's material knowledge? Is like that. You went to the university, that's what you studied. Sandini function is present in the matter as material body, the jiva, and the material universe composed of the 14 planetary system. So in this material world, Sandini potency is present within the eightfold material elements: earth, water, fire, air, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So this Swarup Shakti pervades everything in terms of its direct expansions and indirect expansions. Rajanath said, if one can think of the effects of Shakti, the potency, why is it called inconceivable? In other words, we can think of the effects, how the Shakti acts. And Babaji answers, one can think of these objects separately. In relating to them all, it is inconceivable. In other words, you can think of how this Swarup Shakti interacts with matter, how it interacts with jiva, how it interacts with, doesn't interact, but it serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or it manifests itself in the spiritual realm. But to understand all these things interacting or relating to them all together is just inconceivable. In the material world, it's impossible for contrary qualities to exist in one place. Contrary qualities destroy each other. Heat destroys cold, or cold destroys heat, depending on which one is. more powerful than the other. This is a world of duality. Krishna's Shakti is inconceivable because in the spiritual world, all contrary qualities manifest with beauty and harmony. For example, with the gopis, they are getting angry at Krishna and they want to beat Krishna, and that exists simultaneously with unalloyed love for Krishna. Because everything is done out of love. Even apparent contradictory actions, less motivated, you're thinking contradictory. Krishna is simultaneously endowed with Swarup and with no form. So in other words, Krishna is his body, but he also is the Brahmajyoti, which is formless. So Krishna has both aspects. That way we can say he's unlimited. Right? If Krishna only had one of the two, he wouldn't be unlimited. So he has to have all conceivable opposites to be unlimited in every way. Krishna, he is all-pervading. That means beyond form. He has a form, formless form, and he possesses a form, simultaneamente. He is uncontaminated by action and performs actions. In other words, he does no action, but he performs actions. He is unborn and is the son of Nanda. And that's easier to understand. He makes believe he's the son. Actually, no one is Krishna's father from an ontological standpoint. Krishna is Adi Purusham. He's the original person. Let me just write something. He's worshipped by all and is a coward. In other words, he's God, he's also a coward simultaneously. These things are apparently contradictory. Krishna's just a coward boy. What do you mean he's God? He's omniscient and assumes the nature of a human being, because under Yogamaya, he acts like he doesn't know certain things. Like when the coward boys marched into the mouth of the Aghasura demon, Krishna got bewildered. What's happening here? What is happening? So, he sees everything, but he decides not to see everything or be aware of everything, because that way he can enjoy. It's amazing. All these contradictory qualities exist simultaneously in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here's another one. He is without qualities, that is the Brahman, and with all qualities. That's Krishna the person. He's both sides. He is unlimited and limited. Krishna appears as a little boy, a specific place, and that's pretty unlimited. That's pretty limited. But he's also unlimited because Mother Yashoda looked in his mouth and she saw all the universes and herself. He is far away in the spiritual world and very close in your heart, in every atom. Phew. He is without change and afraid. Transformation, which appears to be a transformation, not an actual transformation. Afraid, here's what he's afraid of: the gopis' anger. Well, in this way, so he's afraid of the gopis' anger. Oh my God, I won't be able to meet with Srimati Radharani. Oh my God, she's going to tie us. She and her associates at one point tied Krishna and his coward boys up to trees and beat them with sticks. In this way, innumerable contrary qualities in Krishna's Swarup form in his abode, and the paraphernalia used in his pastimes nourishes his spiritual pastimes in eternal harmony. So even though it's contradictory, it's harmonious. Just like sometimes you have songs or music that You wouldn't usually put two notes like this together, but it works in certain compositions. That is the inconceivable nature of his Shakti. Whew. Wow. That's quite a lot to digest today. Quite a lot of things to digest. So hopefully everyone understood it, and you may have to hear it a few more times just to digest it and remember it. But these are all aspects of our tattva, our understanding the nature of Krishna, the nature of Krishna's energies. Okay, so now we'll stop sharing. And if anyone's bold enough to ask a question, that was, for me, it's exciting to hear all these philosophical things, but, I don't know how everybody else responded to them, whether there was confusion or excitement or anger or something. So, if you have a question, you can type in the chat window, or you can raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question, because now's the time for questions. And if you can't find a question about what we read about today because it's so confusing, you can ask me a question about anything else in Krishna consciousness that you like. Today is Ekadashi here. It's ecstatic. Ekadashi is a special day of remembering Krishna. Austerities are secondary. But remembering Krishna, whatever maximizes your remembrance of Krishna, you do today. And, so far I chanted 64 rounds today. It's very easy to chant 64 rounds. You just got to wake up early. I was up at 2:30 in the morning.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So you
I have
a question?
Yes, I do have questions on on Ekadashi.
Okay.
So, on Ekadashi, can we offer jal to Tulsi Maharani?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I was confused because we were getting so many answers from different resources. So I just wanted to confirm with you.
Yes. Definitely. I mean, Tulsi Maharani is a pure devotee. She doesn't have to follow the same things we follow. And one can take water. Prabhupada took water on Ekadasi. Prabhupada had special Ekadasi preparations. In my recollection, Prabhupada never fasted completely on Ekadasi. He just stopped taking grains and beans. And so that's the system that I follow on Ekadasi. And
Okay.
pure devotees, they're under a different system.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
like
And then
it's like Radharani. We offer
Mhm.
Radha and Krishna. If one has deities of Radha and Krishna, you offer them grains on Ekadasi.
Oh, okay.
So you have another question?
Yes, I do. So another question is, when we have Tulsi Maharani, like a lot of Tulsi plant at home, can we give it to our family and friends, knowing that they will be using it for like herbal medicine, or do we have to give it to people who just do prayer?
We should just give it to people who are vegetarians and who do prayers. If someone's using it totally for herbal medicine, it's actually not nice.
Okay.
She's a pure devotee. She takes birth in this world or appears in this world so that she can serve Krishna. I know sometimes there's factories in India that make soap out of Tulsi
Mm.
or perfume or teas.
Yeah.
Tulsi tea is very popular nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually offensive, because she's a pure devotee and she wants to serve Krishna. So Tulsi offers her leaves. And actually, the day after Ekadashi on Dwadasi, you're not supposed to pick Tulsi leaves.
Okay.
Tulsi Patra. You're not supposed to pick the Tulsi leaves on the day after Ekadashi. That's Dwadashi. So, yeah, she should be treated as a pure devotee. But certainly, I would give her water on Ekadashi or She doesn't have to fast.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
All right, thank you. Nice question. So, okay, Mr. Gopal Das, you have a question.
Please accept my obeisance, Shila Gurudev.
Okay.
Um, so regarding Tulsi Devi and herbal medicine and tea and so forth, and then on the other side, there's also garlic. Why do these things, why does Tulsi Devi offer so many wonderful health benefits if, like if you do take Tulsi, there's so many benefits that are scientifically proven that her leaves and even the aroma has a benefit for people to smell and ingest and so
Well,
forth.
then offer her to Krishna first. I mean, there's so many benefits from eating food too, right?
But we're still not supposed to make tea out of or powders out of or things even of the prashadam, isn't that right? Or can we?
I never heard Prabhupada talk about if it's offered, if the Tulsi leaves are offered.
Hmm.
Tulsi leaves are offered. I mean, and we make beads out of her. We do so many things. Anyway, you have to do some research to find out what the injunction actually is. But once we offer Tulsi, we eat and we chew. Of course, some people say you're not supposed to chew the leaf either. I've heard that statement.
Oh, I never heard that.
Yeah, I heard that statement. You're not supposed to chew the leaf, but I find that if I keep swallowing the leaves, it gets stuck in my throat.
Does that statement come from Prabhupada?
No,
Oh.
no, there's a lot of stuff that didn't come from Prabhupada.
And so then also on the other side, garlic is said to be in the mode of ignorance and drags our consciousness down and has so many deleterious spiritual effects. And yet it's also antiseptic, antibacterial, antifungal. So why do these things exist in the material world that
Uh, why do these things exist? Well, I mean, garlic can be used as a medicine. It's Ayurvedic. So when one needs to take it, not on a regular basis, you don't want to take antibacterials every day because it will destroy the good bacteria in your system. But you take it when there's an emergency. If you have and many times I've talked about my experience. There was a devotee here who had MRSA infection in her thumb, the opposable thumb, which differentiates us from many animals, from the monkeys at least. So this devotee had MRSA is like a resistant bacteria that's going to grow, take over your whole body, and kill you. So the doctors, they wanted to amputate not only her thumb, I think the whole part of her arm, and they were giving her antibiotics and everything like that. And I just told you, take some garlic. They were getting ready to lose her arm. I said, you take some garlic and you eat like a apple. You just chew on it, not some of this liquid garlic. And within a day or two, the infection was gone completely. So, that's Ayurvedic medicine, but you don't take Ayurvedic medicine on a regular basis unless you have some problem. So, I mean, anything can be used. I mean, even poison can be used as medicine sometimes. Even in the Western medical field, they chemotherapy is like poison for the system. And I was just talking to a devotee, and she had cancer that had metastasized all over her body, and then she underwent chemo, and now it's gone. So poison can be used sometimes by expert doctors. Here's another question. Guru Maharaj, in winter we try our best to keep Tulsi alive by having lights and heater, and eventually she leaves her body. You're not committing sin. Tulsi technically she's an annual. That means she exists for one season, but by giving her more, artificial light and artificial heat and everything like that, you can prolong her life, but eventually she will leave her body. She's because technically, if you look up Tulsi, you'll see that she's actually considered to be an annual plant rather than a perennial plant. Okay, on that happy note, we'll see everybody tomorrow. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.